was the second song that Messenger sang. Had you ever heard that one before? That'd be Mary Did You Know if you weren't paying attention. Y'all heard that one before? Yeah. It's a pretty popular song now, isn't it? I commented a couple years ago in a sermon that it's one of those songs that's like impregnable. You can't hurt it. And the reason I know that is because I've heard Kenny Rogers and Wynonna do it as a duet. And if it survived them, it can take it. It's a popular song, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, Mark Lowry, right? Used to sing in the Gaither Vocal Band. It was David Phelps and Guy Penrod and Bill Gaither and the other guy. And Mark Lowry was the other guy. And he's mostly a comedian now. He mostly does like Christian comedy. But he wrote this song. It was like, it came to him. He's never been a songwriter. He's never written much of anything else. But he wrote this. And it became a monstrous hit. And it's become a standard in churches, and it's all over, and you hear it all the time. The premise was, does Mary know? Does Mary know all this stuff about her baby? And you can look at the hymn if you want to look at the word of the things she should know. You know, does she know all the things he'll do? Does she know who he really is? That's the big climax at the end, right? Does she really know who Jesus is? Did she know? I've waited my whole ministry to say this. Short answer is yes. She knew. Ruins the song, but it's good theology. She did know. And you know how she knew? Because when an archangel shows up in your house unannounced to tell you that you are going to be the mother of the Son of God, you might just have the weest bit of a hint that your kid is not just going to be slightly above average. Yeah, she knew who her baby would be. She sings about it later on, you know. Just keep reading Luke 1. You know, next week we hear the story of her going to visit Elizabeth. We heard about her today too. And Elizabeth greets her, and then she sings a song. Because, you know, that's what you do. Luke 1 and Luke 2 is basically a musical. People burst into song. And she sings what we call the Magnificat. And if you read the words of the Magnificat, and if you come to church next week, we will, she understands completely who her baby is and what her baby will be and what her baby will do. Which is good, isn't it? I mean, we'd like that. I mean, it's encouraging that she actually was aware of what was going to happen. But the thing is, it kind of messes up today's story. Because the temptation in listening to the Annunciation story, that's what today's story is called, the Annunciation, is that it's real tempting to jump from, greetings, favored one, right to, here I am, the servant of the Lord. We just go right from one to the other. Straight to, right to the end. Mary says, yes, Mary knows, amen. Let's go on. We go from greeting to acceptance like nothing happens in between. We skip over the tension in the story. We skip over the drama that takes place. It reminded me of my college band director. And we were going on tour, and we're going to tour a whole bunch of places in the upper Midwest. And we looked at the program, and we were like, are you nuts? You look at some of this stuff we're playing, it was very bizarre stuff. I mean, some really like weird band music. And he said, you open with a march, and you close with a march, you can get away with murder in between. Because nobody will pay attention. Kind of like this story. Greetings, favored one. Here I am. Who cares what happens in between? It's like those people who go to a bookstore and they pull a novel off the shelf and they read the first chapter and they read the last chapter and then they put it back on the shelf and tell you they read the book. Because they know how it began and know how it ended. Mary's yes is not an obvious thing. It is no foregone conclusion that she will actually become the humble servant of the Lord. Her first response is, it's not yes, it's kind of confusion. She's puzzled by what's going on. She is perplexed by what Gabriel says to her, and all he said is, greetings, the Lord is with you. And right there, she's like, whoa, let's just stop here, Gabriel. No, wait a minute. The caution light goes on because she knows something's going on here. She's a long way from here am I. She's more like, okay, who are you and what are you doing in my house? Because she knows that what's happening to her is not normal. Angels just don't drop in unannounced on peasant girls. It's not normal. God does not notice folks like her. God is with her? That is an amazingly foreign idea to her. Because God, if God is anywhere, God is in the temple in Jerusalem. God is not going to be found in a little backwater hole like Nazareth, in her house with her of all people. Nope, doesn't happen. Not in her life, not anywhere that she knows. This is a lot to believe. I don't think she really does, in all honesty. At this moment, I think she doesn't believe it at all. Fortunately, Gabriel is not deterred, and he just moves on. She has found favor with God, and you got to know in her mind, she's going, now what could that possibly mean? And then, like she's not ready for anything more, Gabriel drops the bomb on her. You're going to have a baby. Now, again, we're in Christmas mode, right? So for us, you're going to have a baby. Like, yep, can't have a holiday without you having a baby, Mary. Let's go. But this isn't going to be any baby. Oh, no. This is going to be the Son of the Most High. This is going to be the heir to David's throne. This baby, her baby, will reign over Israel forever. You know what that makes him? The Messiah. That's who this baby's going to be. And that's a lot for a teenage girl to absorb, don't you think? That's a lot for any woman to absorb, I would imagine. Mary is already starting to figure out, I suspect, that this quote-unquote good news is going to come with a lot of baggage attached to it. It's not quite so good as it might sound at first hearing, because she has to know what this pregnancy will mean for her. See, from a societal perspective, from a marital perspective, she is not in any position to be having any babies. That's not an option for her right now, because you know what? She might be engaged to Joseph, but she ain't married to him. That's a problem. A baby is not an option here. And to be found pregnant at this moment in her life is to become a scandal. To be pregnant in her situation at this moment in her life will make her an outcast in her society, in her community. The charge could be brought against her that she has committed adultery. And the punishment is death. She could be killed for this. That's the extreme end of it, obviously. And it may not go that far. But even so, she's got to understand the gossip that will ensue. She's got to understand the stares that will be directed at her. She has to know that she will be excluded from the entire life of her village. She will be cast aside. She knows that's coming. She knows that in a town like Nazareth, there's no place to hide. There's no way she can keep this a secret. There's no way people won't notice. And when they do notice, she will be judged very harshly. Talk about Mary, did you know? She knows all too well what this could mean for her. So she asks the simplest version of her question, how can this be? The point of her question being, this is not an option for me. This cannot work. This is impossible. And Gabriel shares with her the news that, no, it is possible, because the Holy Spirit is going to make it happen to you. Basically, what Gabriel tells her in this moment of what has to be a crisis for her is trust. Trust God in this. Believe in God in this moment. Believe that with God in control, all of this will turn out fine. Put your faith in God. Have faith. that God can do things you think can't be done. Gabriel offers proof that God can do amazing things by telling her about her relative Elizabeth, who has been seen to be barren. And now in her quote-unquote old age, because in this culture old age is probably, 30? 35? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's going to have a baby. And she's 6 months along. There's some proof for you. But then Gabriel throws in the kicker. And if you remember nothing else from anything that happens in this room this morning, remember this line that Gabriel speaks to Mary in her moment of doubt and confusion and crisis and concern. What the heck is happening to me? What is going to happen to me? Gabriel says simply, for nothing will be impossible with God. Nothing will be impossible with God. When you put your faith in God, when you put your trust in God, when you put your life in God's hands, then the impossible will become possible. And what can't be done now can be done. And what you think won't work, now it will work. Because nothing is impossible with God. And it's only then, only after hearing that word of assurance, that Mary can say, "Here I am." Only now can she declare herself the servant of the Lord. Only now can she say yes, because only now does Mary truly know. She knows that God, in fact, can be with her. She knows for a fact that she can find favor with God, and she knows that God can change the whole world through her. She knows that God can bring about the promised new day and the promised new hope and the promised deliverance through a baby that she will give birth to. She knows because she listens and she learns and she comes to believe in the power and the promise and the miracle that is God. And she commits herself in faith to the God who she now knows has chosen her, the God who has called her, and the God who has blessed her. Mary knows. And because she knows, now we can know too. And not just about Jesus, not just about all the wonderful things Jesus is going to do, not just about who Jesus is and what he's all about. Now we know all about ourselves too. And now we know what we can do. And we know what God is capable of doing through us as well. Mary came to believe not in a distant, impersonal, inactive God. She came to know in that moment about an active God, a God who is present now, present in her life, present in our lives, present in every moment, in every place. And she came to believe in her heart and in her soul and in her life that God can be active in and through her, because God is an active, present God, which means God is present today, and God is active today in this place and in you and in me and in the world all around us, which means that, and here's the kicker for us, at any time God will call upon us to act out that faith and act out that belief and become active in the world for the sake of God, in the name of God, and through the power of God. Because I promise you this, God has a task for each one of us. Probably not have a baby, because that one's done already. But there is a task for each one of us. God needs us to be servants of the Lord today. God needs us to be the one who says, "Here I am." God needs us to say, when God calls, "May it be with me according to your word," because we are now the means by which God will act in the world. We are now the means by which God is loving the world and healing the world and saving the world. We are being called by God to be God's humble servants today. Oh yeah, Mary knew. Make no doubt about it. Mary knew. And now we know too. Because we have found favor with God. And God is coming to us today. And God is coming new to us every day. And we are blessed. and we are called. So here we are, the servants of the Lord. Amen.